Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to be talking about food webs and let me just move this over here. Food webs and food change and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to see here that the word biotic, bio, remember bio, like biology is life. Biotic is something that is alive or was once alive. Um, so these are like all living things here, and you should understand this little thing. I wish I was adenine so I could pair with you. Haha, remember, A goes with you and RNA. Um, but anyway, biotic living, alive. Then we have abiotic, and abiotic is something that was never alive. So, for example, we have the sun here, and the wind, and we have sand and fire. And fire, it moves and everything. So, when we talk about the characteristics of living thing, moving isn't always one of them because we have fire that moves, we have water that moves, we have wind that moves. So, it's just, it doesn't have any, it never made that, step to the cell. So they're all never living, never alive. Okay, so now we're going to look, and you can tell me I have these images. Are the rocks biotic or abiotic? So you're going to think in your head, what are they? And also the jellyfish, living, not living, biotic, abiotic. Dirt, biotic, abiotic. A chain link fence, biotic, abiotic. A wood fence, biotic, abiotic. Snail, monkey, isn't that the cutest little monkey? Flounder, fire, clouds, person. Okay, so you should know whether these are biotic or abiotic. All right, so now we're going to be looking at food chains and what is exactly a food chain. So you can see in these examples here, I have the first one is a tree, a deer, and a lion. The next one is a flower, butterflies, a frog, a snake, and an eagle. So as we kind of look at these, we see that they all start with plants, right? And then if we look at the arrow, the next arrow, it's like these organisms eat those plants, right? And then if we go higher, we see that the next ones eat the ones previous. So it's how it builds upon. And food chains are just in a straight line. Okay, so a food chain is a sequence of organisms, each of which uses the next lower member of the sequence as a food source. So if I look at the bottom here, I have primary producers, and they produce their own food because they do photosynthesis. And then if I look up a level, I have herbivores, or also called primary consumers. And these guys are going to eat the producers. They eat vegetables or, any kind of plant source. So they are called herbivores or primary consumers. The next level is my secondary consumers or my carnivores because they are going to eat the organisms from below, right? That are in the first example, it is the grasshopper. So this rat is going to eat a grasshopper. And over on our food, I mean our seafood chain here, I have photoplankton, which is a plant-based organism, and then I have zooplankton, which is, you know, an animal. So they're going to eat the food, and then the fish above it are going to eat the zooplankton. So it goes on and on like this. So we start at the very bottom at the primary producers because they produce their own food. And then we go to our primary consumers, and those are the guys that eat the producers. They're the vegetarians, like deer and cows and all kinds. And then we have the carnivores. Oh, I went to the next one. Okay, so here is one that's food chains are just going from one point, bump, 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 right in a line. So the first one we have here is our producer and our examples of flour. And flowers, I mean, plants are called producers and also autotrophs because they make their own food. Um, and then next we have primary consumers, and these are animals that eat plants, and they are called herbivores or heterotrophs. I know they call them a lot of stuff. Okay, then I have my secondary consumer here. Whoops. My secondary consumer. And this is animals that eat other animals are also called carnivores or heterotrophs. Okay, so they're also called heterotrophs as these are because they cannot make their own food. They have to consume food. Then we have our tertiary consumer, this fox over here, and these are animals that eat other animals, and they are called carnivores, and they are also heterotrophs. Okay, so then what we have is called the movement of energy. So if you notice from the previous one, I have these little arrows here, these guys. And these guys are showing how that energy is moving towards the next one, how it's moving towards the next one. So for instance, this one, I have my producer here, my flower, and it's giving energy to the snail. The snail is giving energy to the frog, and the frog is giving energy to the fox. So also, it shows that the snail ate the plant and got energy from it. So if I were to eat a taco, for instance, like I have here, um, there would be an arrow pointing towards me. Here's my taco, and it's going to point towards me because I'm getting the energy from that taco, right? I know it. So the taco, let's do it this way here. So the arrow would be pointing from my taco to me. It's because I'm getting the energy from that taco. All right. Next, what we have, here's some important things to know about food chains. So in a food chain, each organism obtains energy from the one at the level below it. So at the bottom, we're going to have producers. Then we're going to have primary consumers who are um, herbivores. They only eat plants or grasses and stuff like that, like giraffes and deer and wildebeest. Okay, then we have plants, and they are called producers because they produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis. So you should remember that we did photosynthesis not long ago, and we rehashed it recently. Um, so photosynthesis, remember, is done in plants on the leaves. And remember the stomatas that are on the bottom part of the leaf and all that good stuff. So then animals are consumers because they cannot make their own. I can't make like physically make a taco. I mean, I can wrap the ingredients together, but I can't make those ingredients. Um, so we have to eat something to get our energy. Because if we don't eat, we'll just die of starvation, right? So we have to eat something to get that energy. So we are called consumers. And so there's different types of consumers. So I have herbivores, which eat plants and stuff, and then I have carnivores, which eat other animals and things like that. Fun facts. Oops. Okay, so here are producers. So producers produce their own food. They make their own food. We can also say they are photosynthetic since they use, remember, they use the light of the energy from the sun. Examples are algae, phytoplankton, and large, well, any plant, right? Any plants you see. And they are eaten primarily by primary consumers. So they would be herbivores um, in our case. So we have people that only eat vegetables that they are called vegetarians, and they would be primary consumers as well. If this is going too fast, you can always stop it and catch up. Oh God, it goes so fast. So here are some examples of producers from the marshes, so you often see these plants. I love these, they're so pretty. In like wetlands, and here's our hibiscus, which we see all over Texas, and same with this one here. And here are ferns. So these are just examples of different producers. Okay, so really I went. Okay, so now we're talking about consumers. So there are four types of consumers. Okay, so the first one is a herbivore. Herbivores are animals that only eat plants. Only eat plants. So it would be, your giraffe, your wildebeest, your zebras, your cows, deer, stuff like that. And then the next type of consumer, we have our carnivores. And carnivores are animals that eat other animals. So these would be like your tigers, um, you know, uh, foxes, and all kinds of stuff like that. So cats, for instance. Um, so they eat other animals. And then we have what's called an omnivore. And generally speaking, we are omnivores because we eat both plants and animals. Bears are omnivores. Um, Raccoons are omnivores. So you'll see this. So people are vegetarian, and some people are omnivores, and I don't know anybody that just strictly eats meat at all times, but they would be carnivores. But generally speaking, we're omnivores. And then which we have, which is the all important, the detritivores, and these are organisms that eat dead material. So they're very important to the ecosystem. We don't really think about it, but they're essential for every ecosystem to have. Okay, other ways to classify consumers are primary consumers. So primary consumers, you think they're the first consumers, so they are the herbivores, right? They're the ones that eat vegetables or any type of plant like grasses and stuff. Secondary consumers are carnivores that eat herbivores. So it could be the wolves that are chasing down the deer to have a few for dinner, right? So they're eating the animals that eat the plants, the herbivores. The tertiary consumers are carnivores that eat other carnivores. So this could be, for instance, a great white shark eating, you know, let's say a tuna or something, because the tuna would have eaten a smaller fish, right? So it's usually the tertiary consumers are more the head honcho of the group, right? Because they're going to have everything. They're the top predator, usually. Okay, so here are some primary consumers, and notice, they're eating plants. We have the ducks, they'll eat plants. Um, these guys, and this is a secondary consumer. So like a snake is going to eat something like this. And then this is a secondary consumer because it's probably going to eat worms and termites and stuff like that, who would have eaten plants. So these are more tertiary consumers, these two birds. So they would probably eat this little bird or this snake, right? Because they're the top head honcho in this little ecosystem. So an omnivore, of course, would be the raccoon, because the raccoons will eat anything. Um, I saw one the other night on my fence. They look like robbers, don't they? Anyway, this is a worm. It's a detritivore, and this is going to eat dead things. And this is just one type, but there's so many types, and they are so, so important in the ecosystem to break down dead things and restore it, to the environment. Okay, now what is a food chain? So we looked at a food um, chain, right? We just went from producer to primary consumer to our secondary consumer and our tertiary consumer. So it would be like they're eating the same thing every day. But we know that's not the way it works, right? So I could have, if we look at the bottom of this, you have at the bottom here plants, right? So these are my producers. Now, more than one species eats this, right? So on this case, I have this snail, and I have these fish, and I have these little insects here. And so if I look above, I see that when I go here, like I have these little fish, right? And these fish are going to be eaten by these birds. So you're looking to see where is the energy being transferred. So this wolf, for example, is going to eat an otter, and it also is going to eat this, um, um, what are they called? These guys. Grasshoppers, sorry. And these two birds, they're going to eat, this guy will pick on this raccoon, and he'll also eat these small birds and these ducks. So you're looking to see what is pointing to them to get what they eat. So this mouse is going to be eaten by both of these guys here. And this one is also going to eat these here. So if you look at them into following one line, you could see all these food chains, but they're all put together because they're going to eat other things as well. It's not just a one shop place, Uh, there we go. So if anytime you can always go back in this video and look at it, or there is a PowerPoint of this in Blend. Thank you.